Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and the next Saw What If on the channel. What if John Kramer survived? Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and check out the About tab and homepage so you don't miss anything for the Omniverse's future. With all that said, let's get started. So, in canon, John Kramer, Jigsaw, is pretty much one of the most iconic, influential, and most just disturbing villains of horror history. But in Saw 3, into Saw 4, he was killed. But this didn't stop John Kramer from making appearances in prequel adaptations and furthering the history that John Kramer had. Even into the 2020s, John Kramer's legacy, Tobin Bell, whatever the frick, is just iconic and leveling to the core of horror history. So, what if he didn't die? Now, I was thinking about not giving him the cancer, but that's for another story. We're going to discuss what if he actually didn't die. And I could also make this about the fact that, his kid, Gideon, didn't die, but that's another what if also. This one is a class of its own. What if John Kramer did not die in Saw 3? What would happen? That's what we're going to answer today. So, we open with Saw 3 and Lynn getting dragged by Amanda into the room where John is on the bed and he has to have an operation to save his life and hers. And it's in to Saw 3. Amanda hooks up the collar to Lynn's neck, basically linking herself and John as one. And then she's told that she has to keep John alive to keep herself alive, and that someone is in a game right now, aka Jeffafa, the frickin' imbecile, essentially. And Lynn is trying to keep him alive every single way, shape, and form, but eventually Amanda gets to the point of wanting to kill Lynn, and John manages to convince her, even though, Mark basically threatened her that she was there on the day that his kid died. John manages to sway Amanda just long enough for Jeff to get in the room and not, Lynn gets shot or anything. But Amanda is this freaking close to wanting to shoot Lynn. But Jeff gets a weapon of his own, and he is ready to fight or kill both of them. But John says, there's no need for you to do that. And he says, you have succeeded in both of your games. You are both set free, and now your daughter will not have to deal with a game already set in motion. And he tells Amanda to go and get their kid. But Amanda, she is once again just wanting to kill Lynn, basically, and Jeff also, and just completely disobey John. But everything about her is just telling her not to do it, how much she just loves John. So she decides to listen. And John says, you made the right choice. And Amanda sets Lynn free. And Jeff thinks about what to do for a moment and whether to attack or kill. But believe it or not, because Lynn was let free and their daughter is not in danger anymore, everything about him that wants to kill him He decides not to, but he says, "You're lucky." And John just rolls his eyes. Afterwards, Amanda says, "You know, I could have killed her, you know." And John says, "But you didn't." And then he proceeds to tell Amanda that, yes, she has made very bad choices, but it's because of John that she changed for the better. And Amanda, she listens to all this, but eventually just starts breaking down, crying, and she just begins sobbing hysterically. And Amanda eventually breaks and tells John she was there the day his child was killed. She was there with Cecil whenever he went in and it happened. John, he doesn't know how to take this. This completely blows his mind aback. And he just sits there silent and shocked for a very long time. And he says, "It wasn't your fault. Cecil, he was a man lost. You were lost. I fixed you. But you still made mistakes. Mistakes I tried to steer you away from. This was the last chance and you passed. Thank you for telling me this." And he just begins to slowly, bits and pieces, like, he begins to daze off. Like, Lynn might have saved him and, like, prolonged his life, and Jeff did not actually kill him, but John is still slowly, because of the cancer and everything like that, and the operation just barely prolonging his life, he's beginning to start to pass. And Amanda can see this. Meanwhile, Riggs and the entire game with Hoffman and Matthews goes exactly the same, to Matthews and dying and Riggs getting shot and Hoffman being revealed as the accomplice for Jigsaw. Then Hoffman goes through the door that was hidden in the hospital room, and he meets again with Amanda, and they both see as John takes his last few breaths. And the both of them help John and, his lifeless body to go and bury him. So, John Kramer is officially dead, but he died because of the cancer and just what it was doing to him, and not because he was killed. And they both mourn the loss of their essential mentor, and to Amanda, her father figure, in a way. And they both have a long conversation about this and what will happen to them and future games to come. And Amanda knows they must make John happy and continue on with his legacy. It's what he would have wanted. But just then, Amanda is stabbed straight in the throat by Hoffman, who says, "There can only be one Jigsaw. And unfortunately, it ain't you. After all, you could never get the job done properly. And I know that Lynn wasn't killed. So, rules, you can't be around anymore. There can only be one. And I don't break the rules." And Hoffman stabs Amanda one more time in the throat, making sure that she is actually fatally wounded in the throat, either in the same spot or in another, and Amanda takes her last few breaths, killed. Afterwards, Hoffman gets a tape very similar, if not the exact same one, that John had made in canon after his, autopsy and everything. And he looks down at John, not killed in this timeline, and knowing that the legacy will live on, and it's only through him. So, one would think that this story would honestly be kind of longer, but there's only so much that you can realistically do here. Like I said, I have plans for what if John Kramer's cancer was never a thing? What if his kid lived? And basically other things revolving John Kramer. But for surviving, there's not much you can do. Think about this for a second. The dude might have lived through cancer. He might have lived driving off a cliff. He might have lived with his unborn child dying and all that trauma, grief, and everything causing him to do all that stuff in the first place along with his cancer. But cancer is something that he just couldn't get over. He's even admitted it himself. After all, in the first movie, we didn't get to see him too much, like, in action till the end of the movie for the biggest plot twist in movie history. Then the second movie, we got to see that not only how old he is, nowhere close to an offense for Tobin Bell, but we also got to see, especially by the third movie and the second movie's ending, not what Eric Matthews did to him, just how far the cancer had destroyed him. So, surviving, you cannot really do anything. He would not live probably past the beginning of the fourth movie, or end of it pretty much, which is why I did the whole Riggs and Hoffman game, to imply that since it basically showed that the two movies were connected, that's what would happen. So, with all this said, Amanda would be killed later by Hoffman. Jeff, Lynn, and their kid would get out of there, so Hoffman's not the hero of the story, and only a half of their game would go completed. Because, or failed, if you really think about it. Riggs would fail, Matthews would die, Hoffman would pretty much kill Riggs, and the other dude, the one who got his mouth sewed, the stranger weirdo guy, who I can't really care to remember his name, all of that game and part of the movie would go exactly the same. But when you connect back to the actual story, Strom wouldn't even been given a chance to become relevant or any of that really take place. And I would say that because of Amanda getting killed, Kramer getting a much different death and kind of dying peacefully, if you really think about it, and not getting his throat slashed, means that while Jeff's story might have gone better, Amanda's not so much, especially after, even if Hoffman found out that she did tell Kramer about everything, because it would literally give her no choice but to tell him, I was thinking of actually killing Kramer off because of learning that. But that made me kind of feel bad for John Kramer. And you might think that I'm crazy for feeling bad for him. But when you really think about his character, you kind of gotta feel a bit bad for him, especially if I had gone that route. I decided to go the more peaceful route, just because it was best for John Kramer's story. A psychic psychotic sociopathic freak dying a peaceful death. Kind of rubs you the wrong way, but at the same time, making grief or something like that kill him, and the fact that he got his throat slashed while in cancer, almost killing freaking, just in that state whenever Jeff did it, it really just turns your head sideways thinking of whether you should feel bad for him. Because sometimes, especially a dude like Frieza, who begged for his life, and so many others in all of media, like bad guys, it's just, John Kramer's one of those that, like, you don't know if you really want to feel bad for him. But, yeah, so he would get a much different death. Hoffman's side, it would all go the same. Jeff's story would pretty much be better, because Lynn would be around, and their daughter... I forgot to mention in a previous story that if Jeff actually passed, Lynn would survive, and their daughter, they wouldn't have had to play the game. Because since Amanda failed, and then Jeff failed, that's why Jeff's daughter was put in more jeopardy, and why Jeff was even trapped in there. So, by the time Strom would get there, the whole place would be evacuated. And there would be no hero storyline. As for Hoffman's story, I feel that it would just either be easier for them to figure out that it's him, or Hoffman would find a different approach to make it all cycle towards the kind of pretty much canon ending, which is why I pretty much ended it on this note. Because the only things that would change is how Amanda's death would happen, how Kramer's death would happen, Strom's entrance, Jeff's side getting a happy ending, Hoffman not being the hero eventually found out 3 movies later, and Hoffman's side being kind of detained, found out earlier, or cycled around to the eventual same ending. It's up to you guys what you want to come up with in that regard. It really doesn't matter. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this little story, and I will have stuff planned for John Kramer with his cancer, his kid, and just other stuff still revolving around Saw. But don't get too excited, because we're running out of Saw what-ifs. Cars has come to an end. Lord of Rings has come to an end. And slowly but surely, stuff that pretty much cycled this channel's beginning, we're going to have to start making room for new stuff that I've saved. New stuff from existing stuff like this to come out and bring me more what-ifs. And honestly, there's only so much more left that the Omniverse has left to tackle and talk about. But the ride and the Omniverse fulfilling what-ifs are far from done. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in Megatron absorbing the fusion cannons.